And as we get ready to go into break, I want to just introduce to you all so you can get ready to hear from my guest today, who is Crystal Reed. She's known as KrysSpeaks. She's an entrepreneur, a journalist, and an educator who supports and promotes women empowerment through the stories that she shares on Linking All Women. When we get back from break, we'll learn more about Crystal, and we'll learn all about Linking All Women. And I've got a treat for you, too. So you can begin to call 414-444-5250 because caller number 8 will win one of my favorite things, and that is a gourmet party box of pound cake slices. You'll get 2 flavors from Kitchen Sweets Cakes by Steven. Again, I want to encourage you to call 414-444-5258. Caller number 8 will win one of my favorite things, and you'll get this just in time for Thanksgiving. This is I'm Every Woman, and I'm Faithe Colas. You're listening to us and Mr. Keon over here, right here on WNOV860 AM, 106.5 FM. We'll be right back.
You're listening to WNOV860 and W293CX 106.5 Milwaukee. You're inside I'm Every Woman on WNOV 860 AM and 106.5 FM Milwaukee, a show empowering women by women. And now we return with your host, Faithe Colas.
Hey, so let me say congratulations to Jimmy for being a listener. We thank you absolutely for that. And she is the winner of the cakes by my friend Steven, Kitchen Sweets Cakes. So she wins a party box of pound cake slices, and I'll give you a call after the show, Jimmy, and we'll talk all those details so you can be sure to have your Kitchen sweets by Thanksgiving Day. And I promise you, you'll love it, you'll enjoy it. I also want to give a shout out to my good friend Pam Clark. Man, Pam and her team over at MHS, they are jamming all the time. One of my girlfriends and I, Danita Ball, we were there yesterday helping to pack items and get things all set for the giveaway today. We did a little bit of volunteering and meeting people, and so I want to give a shout out to all the folks that we met, but hats off to Pam Clark and her team over there because they are giving those turkeys away. It's a drive-through only, folks. Drive-through only at the Milwaukee Health Services at 8200 West Silver Spring. They'll be giving out those Thanksgiving baskets while supplies last. So, just telling you. And then I know there are a lot of other events going on throughout the city as well. But our friends at MHS, they do this community great justice by their deep caring and deep compassion for not only servicing members of this community through the health services there, but also through their community engagement, some very real, meaningful community engagement. So thank you, Pam, and the team over there at MHS. Listen, I have the pleasure, along with you this morning, of having a conversation with Crystal Reed of Linking All Women. Crystal, thank you for joining me this morning. How are you?
I am great. Thank you for having me today.
You are welcome, and this is a real treasure for me because we are both members of Wisconsin Black Media Association, and really that's how I met you.
Yeah.
And it's those kind of associations and memberships that really bring people together, and it's not just for us to have great times, but we get a chance to network together as well, right?
Right. Yeah. It was a joy to be able to connect with people who are doing the same things you are doing. And then also when I met you, you like, I need to get you on the show. And in my head, I'm like, I need to get you on law. So I'm grateful that we, have that connection.
I am too, Crystal. And part of my joy for doing this show is just knowing that every week I have an opportunity to reconnect with old friends, but also to meet new friends and to engage with young women and women of every background on what they're doing to make our community better and their personal spaces. So I know that you interview strong, bold, and courageous women.
Yeah.
Women a lot like yourself. So tell us a little bit about you. What were you like growing up? Where did you grow up?
Yes, I am a native of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I grew up on the north side in a two-parent household with my mother and father and my siblings. I am the eldest of four siblings. I have two brothers and one sister. The brothers, when you see them, you would think they are the big brothers, but they are my big little brothers. I grew up in a very loving environment and loving village. I attended school at Riverside University High School, so I am an MPS student through and through from elementary to high school. And then I transitioned and went to a historically black college university, Tennessee State. Yeah.
And what was that experience like for you attending a black university?
It was everything that I needed, and I feel that everything that any black person could, come in contact with, just everything black, everything beautiful, even your professors just empowering you like a second mom or pop. So it was a beautiful experience to be around people who look like you and are trying to do better in life, just like you are. So it was great for me. How I was able to get to a HBCU was because of my great aunt, which is Aunt Gloria Ivy, who worked at Tennessee State University. So that's how I came into the knowledge of historically black colleges and universities. I remember going to a homecoming senior year of high school with me and my best friend, and I just knew that was the route that I wanted to go on.
Well, it sounds like your experience at Tennessee helped to make you a strong, bold, and courageous woman. Would you say so?
I would agree. I definitely would agree. I remember having a class, a course in school, and her name is Dr. Tamika Winston, and she is still bold, bad, courageous, and fly. And so she was probably about 28, 29 at the time when she was my professor. And I would go to class, I would watch her, of course, turn my assignments in. But that was a woman who I can look to and say that you can be fly, stylish, you can be bold, smart, and educated. And even to this day, Dr. Winston, she's still all of that. She has accomplished so much. So I've had great examples in front of me.
So there's your Aunt Gloria. There's
Yes.
Dr. Winston.
Yes.
Who else? Who are these other strong women in your life that poured into you to help make you who you are?
Yes. Firstly, my mother. My mother is an amazing woman. My deep roots in faith came from her, which came from her mother. And so my mother is everything. Super, super smart. Very just amazing woman all around. And she taught me how to pay attention, be alert, also just to pursue my dreams. She's a great pusher. And so from her to my grandma to my aunt, those three ladies in particular, I often mention anytime I'm talking about law because they were the foundation to helping me to even consider creating an organization called Lincoln All Women. because I've had beautiful relationships with them. They taught me a lot. I learned from a lot from them. I watched them, and they are amazing in their respective careers. And so that is like the foundation of how law started. And then as I started to do what I do in the work as a journalist, then I came in contact and still today with beautiful, amazing women. So
You
just a
know,
trickle down effect.
a trickle down effect.
Mhm.
Before we started talking, I was just talking with the audience about intergenerational conversations, family
Mm.
conversations, on Thanksgiving Day. But I'm encouraging folks to do that start today. Start today
Yeah.
through Thanksgiving weekend, just kind of revving things up. What
Mhm.
does, what would Thanksgiving dinner, a week of preparation with you and your mom and your grandmother and your aunt look like? What would that look like, and what would those conversations sound like?
That's a great question because I wanted to add on to what you were saying. I mean, our conversations, that's kind of like Thanksgiving every day. We have a group
Nice.
text message, including my cousin, my older cousin. And so we stay connected weekly. Every day we're always staying connected, but specifically for Thanksgiving, that's just like the icing on the cake for us to get
Right.
together. At the top of November, my aunt is sending out a message and saying, okay, who's doing what time, where we meeting at. And so this connection that we have, and that's why I do believe that Lincoln All Women has become so impactful because it's from my roots. This is something that I actually live on a day-to-day basis. This is my life story. So Thanksgiving is just the icing on the cake. It's just like coming together like we would do any other time for birthdays, or anything else that we do.
I love that because one of my sisters and I, we have a family chat with both of our daughters. And so my daughter's 37, her daughter is 33, and it's interesting the perspectives of whatever it is that we're talking about in the family chat that we get. And then my sister and I will pick up a phone and call each other and go, what are these young women talking about?
Right, right, right. Right. Like even most recently, and I love your title, I'm Every Woman. So Shaka Khan was on the Verses last night,
Yes.
online. I love Shaka. So like we were even talking about that
Right.
today. So, just having that connection and then be
Yes.
able to, get different perspectives from all different ages is a beautiful feeling. And it helps you to be real rounded as a woman.
It does. It does. And I want to get to how you got to linking all women and really dive into that. But I want to ask you, what are you most thankful for as you think about this season that we're coming into? It's the holiday season. Thanksgiving is, the one bookend of it. The other end of it is New Year's Eve, the New Year's celebration. But in between, there's a lot of celebrating, there's a lot of self reflection, there's a lot of
Mhm.
thankfulness, and there's a lot of hope that goes in, uh, as well as giving. What are some of the things that run through your mind about the holiday season?
Yeah, the holiday season is big for me, especially Thanksgiving, because I am all about family. I'm a family girl. So of course I'm very thankful for family. But when I think about women, I'm thankful that I am sure that I have a certainty about my purpose. And that comes because of me choosing to make a decision to love on myself, to explore, to learn about myself, and having that faith in God where He has showed me the type of woman that He designed me to be. So I'm thankful for certainty because I know a lot of times some women they never really get to explore who they are and learn who they are
Right,
and
right,
appreciate who they are.
right.
And so I would even encourage women on today to really just to get to know yourself, love on yourself. We serve a lot of people in a lot of different capacities. So that's what I'm most grateful for. That is it's a blessing to me that I'm sure. And it doesn't mean that I'm always sure every day about what I should do, but I'm sure about who I am and why I'm doing what I'm doing.
I love that certainty. That's
Yes,
what you're thankful for. I love that. I love
yes.
everything you said. And I'll tell you, one of the things that's such a blessing to me and really blesses me is having young women, younger women in my personal space, or my professional or community space, because there's a part of them that I see that they grabbed onto earlier in life than I did. And it
Mhm.
reminds me that, you know what, you can do this, you can think
Mhm.
this way, you can reach out. Here's another resource. And I've learned a great deal of humility because I have younger people in my circle, in my space. I marvel at the courage that young women have, and maybe some of what I'm seeing is that they are certain about who they are and what they're doing. So, thank you for sharing that with us and being an example of that. Now, let's talk a little bit about linking all women. How did you decide that you wanted to become an entrepreneur, and why linking all women? Share the
Well,
evolution of that.
yes. Well, as far as becoming an entrepreneur, that was nothing I ever thought about becoming. So let me say that first. That was not something, like I've written down, because I've always had goals and dreams that I would write down, and I would say, oh, 5 years I want to be here, or the next 10 years I wanted to be there. But the word entrepreneur, the lifestyle, that was nothing that I ever dreamed about. But I'm grateful that I am doing it and I'm here today, and it's a great feeling. It's a great life. How I decided to do Lincoln All Women is because I have a heart for women, and so I started Lincoln All Women about 6 years ago. And I started. I had the first engagement was just a brunch with women that I knew, women my age and women that was a little older than me. Much older but little older. You get what I'm saying.
I do.
So,
I
so we
do.
had
I
a
do.
brunch, and the brunch, it was successful. It was nice, and people really appreciated coming together. And so I was like, oh, okay, I guess this is something. And then months later, God downloaded the vision to me to do Lincoln All Women and the name and everything. So I was like, okay, I guess this is what I'm doing. And then eventually, in creating Lincoln All Women, I discovered, okay, then this is where my journalism work is going to come in, which I went to school for. So, mind you, when I moved back home from school, I worked in education. And so that's what I was doing for a while until I started Lincoln All Women. And then about a year or so into doing Lincoln All Women, that is when I started to do my interviews. And then it just evolved from there.
How can we see your interviews?
Yes, you can find the interviews on the website, LincolnAllWomen.com. Also on the YouTube channel where the full interviews are shared. And then you can also find them on Facebook. So there's various outlets where you can find and watch the interviews. And then also there's a podcast called Law Talk with KrysSpeaks where the interviews are posted on there as well for audio.
Well, and I wanted to share that, even though we still have about 10 minutes or so together, I wanted to share that so that women and our listeners, male or female, can go to linkinallwomen.com and get a little bit more information about you, Crystal, and learn a lot more about Linking All Women. As we
Hmm.
continue this conversation about your journey as a businesswoman,
Yeah.
talk about some of the losses and the wins, the highs and the lows of being an entrepreneur.
Yes, being an entrepreneur, it has its highs and it has its lows. The lows come when, you may be uncertain about why you're doing what you're doing, and should you take this route? Should you spend this amount of money to promote this or to promote that? You have lost in spending some money and certain things didn't turn out how you thought it should be. but then you also have gains in continually to invest into your company. And then as it continues to grow, then you get to see the benefits and the gains. So being consistent is something that I talk about, and I believe that's one thing that I've been doing good at, is being consistent no matter what. No matter, and we live in an age of social media, so no matter how many views you get in doing the work that you're doing or the likes that you get, the consistency and still producing the work, still giving out the product, still, talking to people, doing the work in the community, because you understand the bigger purpose of why you're doing what you're doing. If you know your why, then you wake up every day, and it doesn't matter if a business is not looking like what it wants to look like. You're still going to pursue what you need to pursue because you understand the why and the impact.
You talked earlier about God downloading, linking all women to you, the name and different elements.
Yes.
Is that where you understood your divine purpose? I mean, how did you collide into your divine purpose?
Yeah, because I decided to trust God's plan, Miss Faith. I said, you know what? And I'm a church girl, and so I grew up in church. But as I evolved, and you go through things in life, and I said, you know what? I'm going to trust His plan in every area of my life. And so I think that's when I decided to do that. I believe that's when He decided to download. Okay, here's Lincoln on Women. I'm giving you this. This is going to be your purpose. And like I said, with Lincoln All Women, this is my life story. Having conversations with women, being around positive women, that is my life story. That is what I have done. That is what I have experienced. That is what I have gleaned from and benefited from. And so my faith in God is very deep, and it has helped me to sustain my business. When you talk about being an entrepreneur, that has definitely helped me to sustain my business.
That is something that that aspect, the God conversation, the God presence in our lives, that's a common thread of every single person that I've interviewed for during my time here at the radio station. They talk about their faith and their personal relationship with God and how it has guided them to the very moment of the conversation, on the subject matter that we're having.
Yeah.
And you're no different.
Yeah. Yeah. I roll deep with God. I mess with Him a long way. That I'm talking to Him every day throughout the day. He is my guide. And so I trust the God plan. And trusting doesn't always mean that everything is going your way.
Right.
But it means that you know that in the long run, it will be beneficial, whatever that may look like.
Exactly. Because you may not even know what that next step is. You just know this is the way you're supposed to be going.
You don't. There's been numerous days where I did not know the next step. I trust God so deep, Miss Faith, where I say, okay, God, what's the next interview? Or, what's the next series? That's how tough I roll with Him as it relates to my business. I don't know how a lot of people do it, but that's how I roll with Him and Lincoln All Women.
I love it. Let's talk about some of the women that you've interviewed and the places where you've been as a speaker. What interviews have maybe resonated with you the most? Some women that just blew you away.
A lot of them.
I believe that. I do. I believe that when you say that. I do. Because even when if it's women serious, you know, no right?
Yeah, I'm serious, no doubt. Most of them. One of the recent interviews was back in May with one of my favorite artists, Michelle, talking about love. Let's see, another interview with I'm just thinking about this year. Desiree Crocroft talking about what was she talking about? Just pursuing your goals and dreams. She's a life coach. There's thankfully, there's so many interviews that have resonated with me that has also empowered me.
So, talk a little bit about some of those subject matters that have
Hmm.
empowered you, that maybe you were surprised that, you know what, this resonated with me in this particular way. I am
Hmm.
so sure it resonates with my audience.
Yes, for sure. When you talk about, let's scale back to 2017. You talk about domestic violence, and so I've interviewed one of my friends, Laverne Badger, and how we became friends through Lincoln All Women. She shared her story, and then when you talk about that God thing of God, reminded me of some things that I experienced as far as the emotional part.
Mm-hmm.
So I never experienced the physical part, but the emotional part of that was heavy. And so I'm like, oh, I've never dealt with that. So after having that interview, I had like
Mm-hmm.
a aha moment, as Oprah would say. And so then it forces you to deal with your truth,
Right.
you know. Um, let's bring it up to speed to today when you talk about forgiveness. And then you talk about the God thing and how things are connected. The power of forgiveness and how forgiveness is very powerful. And when you choose to do it, it's you choose to choose joy. You choose, and it frees up things in your life. And so that is something forgiveness. I used to look at forgiveness like, I'm not on that. And
Mm.
then God was like, hey, how you how you gonna do what you want to do and you ain't forgiving? And so, so when you talk about that particular series or that particular topic, those are heavy topics, but those are real topics. And those are real topics that women face every day. And so when we talk about purpose and we talk about women being entrepreneurs and being every woman, you got to deal with your truth. You
And
got to deal with it. You got to face it. You can't evolve into who you're supposed to be, this amazing woman, if you don't face your truth.
and that's very true. You one of the things you mentioned earlier when we started talking, Crystal, was we serve a lot of people as women.
Mhm.
You touched on that. We're always in service to someone else, and that's part of who we are, and that's also part of our greatness. Um, how do you how do you refuel Crystal?
I really feel Crystal about around being around family and friends. Means a lot to me. So my family and very trusted circle of friends is how I refuel. Feel. I do things that I like to do. I like to brunch.
Mm-hmm.
I'm into art. So I do things that I like that helps to refuel me. And yeah, things like that. That's what helps me to maintain focusing on me. Because like I said, I do have a heart for women, but I got to make sure I pour into myself first.
Oh, absolutely, and I absolutely would agree with you on that. You can also be booked as a speaker. Talk about some of the subject matter that you would speak to an audience about.
Some of the subject matters I would speak to audience about is about self love, investing into yourself, um, making sure that you're educating yourself, being a lifelong learner, whatever that looks like. It doesn't have to be technical education, but it can be something related to your passion. When we talk about refueling yourself. And so those are some of the topics, but are not limited to topics that I would talk about with the audience because it's very important that we invest into ourselves. It's very important that we, discover our passions, and that helps fuels us and to help balance us when we're dealing with people on a day-to-day basis.
What are some of the things on your bucket list for yourself, Crystal, as you move into different seasons in your life?
Bucket list. Uh, yeah. You know, I'm interested, and I know it's going to happen. It is happening. I want to travel more overseas. I haven't been to the motherland yet, Africa,
Yes.
as they say, and
That's on my
so
bucket list. Yes.
that's on a bucket list of mine. I
Yes.
gotta go to I gotta go to the motherland.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Absolutely. And lifelong learning. How do you do that for yourself?
Uh, every day, Miss Faith, I'm always listening to something, or I may read. That's just a part of like my daily regimen, or just who I am. And then I would say, if I think about a woman in my life, I think about my aunt Rashida, who is an educator. She's a principal. She's a leader to this day in education, and she's a lifelong learner. And she always would encourage me to, stay on your stuff. Make sure you read into this and study this and look into that. And so people like her has really helped when you talk about that stem on your tree of being a lifelong learner. She's one of
Yes.
those people. So it's just in me every day. Every day I'm looking to learn something. Not a day goes by.
Is there anything that keeps you up at night, Crystal?
Concern for women.
Mm-hmm.
Concern for women, that they are well. It is God wants us to be well. He wants us to be well. It's not. We're not just on here just to serve people. That's not what we were put on this earth to do, just to serve people. But we have so many gifts and so many talents. But if we're not well, we're not able to tap into those talents, into those gifts, because we're so busy being bound. So that book when you talk about woman thou art loose,
Yes.
it's so many of us that's not loose.
Yeah.
You gotta be loose from your stuff. You gotta be loose from your stuff. So that's one of the things that does keep me up at night. And just black people as a whole, the black family. I have a high concern from that, especially what's going on in our world.
Right.
Our black men.
Right.
I'm concerned that they are losing their place as leaders. And as much as I believe in the empowerment of women, women have to, we need to be in our role, and the men need to be in their role.
Absolutely.
And at the end of the day, anybody that knows me closely, I ain't trying to be a man.
Hello.
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 I believe in us being empowered.
Yes.
But I want you to do what you need to do to lead.
Right.
And let me do what I need to do to follow.
Exactly. No, I absolutely support that line of thinking. I mean, as a divorced mom, I understood the role that I needed to step into, minus a husband, and minus a father for my daughter at that particular time. But I also knew that I'm doing two roles here. I'm doing a male role and I'm doing the female role. So I know exactly what you mean. And I understood that God created us each for specific roles, not to take anything away from powerful women. I love my femininity and all of that. And I love being a powerful person and being able to speak my mind and have independent thoughts. But I also understand the role. Absolutely support that line of thinking. I mean, as a divorced mom, I understood the role that I needed to step into, minus a husband, and minus a father for my daughter at that particular time. But I also knew that I'm doing two roles here. I'm doing a male role and I'm doing the female role. So I know exactly what you mean. And I understood that God created us each for specific roles, not to take anything away from powerful women. I love my femininity and all of that. And I love being a powerful person and being able to speak my mind and have independent thoughts. But I also understand the role of a man, which is why I think by the time I met my second husband, I could really appreciate a relationship, being in a healthy, loving relationship. I hear you on that, Crystal. I do.
Yeah. I think that's important.
It is. It's very important. And as we wrap up, Crystal, I want to thank you for creating Linking All Women. And I want to encourage the audience to go to your website, linkingallwomen.com. And as you leave us, can you just tell us what is your hope for women?
My hope is simply that they will come into the true knowledge of who God designed them to be. And once they do that, they will be able to be on a lifelong journey of true wellness.
I support you in that hope. Thank you, Crystal Reed. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. I appreciate that. And we'll talk again real soon.
Okay, thank you.
Folks, linkingallwomen.com. That was my guest for today, entrepreneur and journalist Crystal Reed. I also want to thank my sponsor for today's show, the All of Us Research Program. To learn more and to sign up, visit joinallofus.org.